Okay, so I've done a few more battles in Medieval 1212, and I thought that some of them were worth showing once again, and this one is probably the best 1v1 land battle I've had so far in the map. In the mod, I should say. This is a good one, if I do say so myself, so we will begin the replay. I was playing as the Kingdom of Norway, and my opponent was playing as the Holy Roman Empire. So we'll go through the army composition when the match actually loads in. Okay, so we'll go through the army compositions now. We'll go through my army first. I am, of course, playing Norway, like I said. And I have 2 units of the Orkney Islanders High Period. These guys look pretty damn cool. And they are an archer which is pretty good in melee as well as being pretty decent at range as well. So a nice High Period archer there. And I also have 2 units of the Guests. The Guests are a unit that Norway can only bring 3 of, but they are also slightly better than the Orkney Islanders, at least at range. In melee, I think the stats are pretty similar. Both of them have got pretty nice shields, as you can see, and that's how you can tell if an archer is good in melee. Generally speaking, they will have the shields. Then I also have 5 units of the Candlemen, which are a spear unit. They have these nice bucklers. They are a high period unit, I believe, which is good. They're kind of like a hybrid unit between pikes and spears, I believe, based upon the formations that they can deploy. They look pretty cool. I decided to bring quite a lot of them because I thought it would be a good idea against a faction which almost certainly has got superior cavalry to me. Moving on, we have 4 units of the Vaperne. Oh god, that sounded... I don't know why I put an Italian twist on that. Regardless, this is the best infantry unit that Norway can field. I believe these guys are actually a late period unit, despite the fact that they look kind of more high period based upon their armor score, which is very high. This is the strongest unit I'm able to field in terms of relative power anyway, so this is going to be the real core of my army here. And I also have 2 units of the Tablemen, and they look really cool as well. I love the helmets on these guys. They are essentially the equivalent to fortnightly retinue, I believe, that England and France have. So they are like the best form of early period unit you can have. They are pretty decent, but against like late period units, they're probably not going to get too much done. I, of course, have brought a catapult. I've also brought 3 units of the Knechts. That's wrong as well, I'm sure, but these guys look awesome. And it's Norwegian for knights, so I will just be referring to these guys as knights. Really nice looking unit, this. Again, they're kind of like more heavily armoured tablemen, but mounted. So that's very nice. And my general is the King of Norway, High Period, and he is over here, looking very splendid indeed. Very Scandinavian. So that is my army. So mostly I'm going to be depending on my infantry corps, it must be said, and my effectiveness in melee. So if we move on to my opponent, who is playing as the Holy Roman Empire, he has brought 4 units of early period crossbow sergeants, so he's going for a crossbow skirmish force, which means I'll have the advantage at range, but he should have the stopping power advantage pretty clearly. Early period, so he saved a little bit of money here. We have set some rules as well amongst me and the people that I play with have set a few rules that we can't just spam a bunch of late period units, because otherwise that will imbalance most of the games. Like Norway don't really have a lot of late period units, so if the Holy Roman Empire are allowed to bring all their best stuff, it will become a bit of a non-event of a fight, really. So he's got the 4 units of early period crossbow sergeants. He also has 4 units of the Pavie spears, and my heart sank when I saw these guys in his army, because as you saw in the last battle, they are very, very good. We have decided to ban the use of square formation, but even in spite of this, they take forever to die, regardless of what you do. He has also brought 2 units of the mercenary Swiss halberdiers. These guys are very, very nice indeed. These guys are all late period units, so they are very expensive. He has had to sort of cut back in other areas in order to field these very, very nice units. He also has 2 units of heavy sergeants high period. They are an axe unit, I believe. Well, actually no, they're classified as melee infantry, but they will obviously have more of a focus on doing damage because they don't have shields. A bit more vulnerable to my archers perhaps, but they will do a pretty decent amount of damage indeed. And then he has 4 units of early period sergeants. This is where he's cut back a little bit. You know, they won't really, not really on the same level as the rest of his infantry, but nonetheless, they are still a part of his core. Sort of a little bit more of a disposable unit, this, but they will make up the numbers in his army, of which he, I believe, has slightly more. Yes, he does. About is 90 more men than I have. So, you know, he has got a bit of a numbers advantage, but then I also have some pretty nice units of my own. He has 3 units of the Imperial Knights. So these guys, again, like if you look at them, they're going to be pretty similar to my Knights in terms of quality. In fact, I'd say they're pretty much identical. Just the looks that are a little bit different. Maybe they do have a few differences in terms of stats as well. But he also has the Emperor's Guard late period, and this is going to be a bit of a problem. There's the Emperor with his golden helm and plume. This is going to be a bit of a problem because my general is only a high period, so he has a slight cav advantage. And, you know, I would say that in terms of units, he probably has a bit of an advantage, so I'm going to need to play this a little bit smart. I'm going to have to use the fact that he hasn't brought any siege to my advantage as well. So I will begin the battle, and we'll cut to when the fighting starts. Okay, so the armies are moving towards one another. I have my archers at the front, as does he. He is also moving some troops through the trees here. They are hidden at the moment, so he's going for a bit of a flanking maneuver on this flank, and he's put all his cavalry on the other flank. So I'm going to be forced really to move my horses over here to deal with his superior cav. I can't let his cav run roughshod over my infantry line, because my infantry line is the one place where I hold a pretty distinct advantage, because his early period sergeants are not going to be a match for my heavy swordsmen here. Nonetheless, my catapult will begin firing. It's also going to be my advantage in terms of range, but he will get into range pretty soon. So the skirmish fight is going to really be kind of even for the time being, I would say. I could probably break his archers before he could break mine, but his infantry is going to engage mine pretty soon after that anyway. He's moving his swords up on this flank, so I'm going to move forward a couple of units of the Candlemen to just sort of hold the flank. My thinking was that the spears, while my spears are not going to be as good as his parvis, and I've just spotted his hidden man, that they will at least still hold against the likes of heavy sergeants and such, so I will bring these guys out to the flank a little more. I've also still got my horses over here. I'm also going to send over the tablemen, my slightly less elite infantry, just over here to help hold the line. I don't want to beat him over here, I just want to be able to hold him off. The centre is where I'm going to be focusing my efforts, because that's where my most elite forces are. And my archers, which I think if I use my archers correctly, once the infantry fight has gotten underway, I will be able to win that fight pretty convincingly. It's the flanks where I am a little bit more concerned. His cav is slightly better than mine, just because he has a late period general. I have 2 units of Candlemen over here. He's bringing over 2 units of Parvis, which is a bit of a problem. So he has the advantage on both flanks. But now I'm going to be sending forward my infantry, going to try and get a nice shot of the infantry coming together. Early period sergeants are going to be no match for my units in melee, so this is a fight that I definitely want to take. Over here he's engaged my Candlemen with his heavy sergeants, and he got a charge off while I wasn't looking, and I didn't actually put my Candlemen in any sort of formation, so this is suddenly a fight which I'm not too eager to take. I do have the tablemen backing them up just in case, but really I'm starting to look thin on this flank compared to him already, especially seeing as he has some late period units flanking around. So I'm going to have to sort of direct a lot of archer fire over there. I'm sending out my horses, and I'm going to engage him now, and I'm going to try and bog down his 2 spear units with one of mine. And I'm going to try and bring out 1 unit of Candlemen over here to engage his general and kill him. I'm going to lose this fight naturally. The Candlemen are not going to be a match for 2 units of Parvis. But if I can just keep these guys occupied and get these Candlemen in here to kill his general, then we might be in business. This is a very even fight over here. 2 units of Imperial Knights against 2 units of, against my king and a unit of Norwegian Knights. So this is going to be a fight which goes on for quite a while. You know, both of our skirmishers can't really influence the fight too much because we'd be shooting our own horses more than the enemy horses. And over here, I think I do have the advantage in this fight for the time being, because I do have spears coming in, so I should win this cav fight. This cav fight will be very even. I'm going to lose, however, the infantry fights on both flanks. I'm going to have to make sure that my archers plug any gaps, and here you can see the Candlemen already breaking and doing virtually no damage to the heavy sergeants, so I quite clearly misused my spears pretty severely here. And again, I'm a player who's played a lot more 3rd Age and Medieval too, so I'm in the wrong mindset, and I obviously misused my spears here, which is a bit of a shame because I needed these guys to hold for much longer than they did, and I would expect them to actually hold pretty long against a high period unit. If it was a late period unit, I'd be more understanding. The Tablemen are also losing pretty decisively, so I'm having to bring over yet another unit of Candlemen I had in reserve to try and hold this flank, but he's wrapping around me pretty severely here, and now he's going to just break through. My units are breaking, so I'm going to have to fire my archers arrows into this blob here with heavy shot, try and kill them with my arrows before my archers are swamped. I am winning in the center, but it's not as quickly as I need it to be because of course my flank collapsed very, very quickly. My archers are all focused over here, which means over here this unit of candlemen is unsupported and they're very, very rapidly dying off. So that's a bit of a shame. These crossbows are just going to do the same amount of damage really to his horses as they are to my horses, so it's not really something that's worth worrying about at the moment. My king is at the back. Let's see if we can get a nice view of my king. He's in here somewhere. There he is, I see him. There he is. Yep, so he's relatively protected from the archers. Over here, the spears are influencing the fight here. The Emperor's Guard, though, because they're late period, it's going to be very difficult to kill him off, but he will lose this fight eventually because he's outnumbered and there are spears in the fight. His main infantry line is breaking here, which is good for me because it means I will be able to bring my heavier swordsmen back to support my archers, which are under attack over here, but the Orkney Islanders are pretty good in melee, so they're not going to fold instantly, but it's still a bit of a problem. I need to get my catapult firing. This flank was a bit of a disaster show from my men. I would have expected the candlemen to do better, even out of formation, but apparently not. The mercenary Swiss halberdiers and the pavis are my real concern at the moment, because they are the late period units over here. The heavy sergeants have actually performed very well, but they are now losing because they are being attacked in the flank by the tablemen and some reformed candlemen. His heavy sergeants are also breaking. His main infantry line is breaking as well, which means I will be able to bring my heavy swordsmen back over here to protect my archers. I was thinking at this point that I wouldn't need to protect against these pavis spearmen because I was expecting him to go over here and influence the cav fight, which was bad for me as well because it would put my general in a great deal of trouble indeed. At this point I was losing the fight, and I knew that because my flanks were collapsing. Even though his centre collapsed, that was where his less important units were. But I am now being able to bring my heavy swordsmen into the fight. They're going to be able to break these heavy sergeants pretty quickly. Yep. Good looking unit that as well. I like the little bucklers that most of the Norwegian units have. Aesthetically, Norway is one of my favourite factions that I've played so far. I'm now getting the rear charge off, so these units here, the heavy sergeants and the mercenary Swiss halberdiers, should go and rout pretty quickly, but I am worried about the pavis spears that he still has. I've not done really much damage to any of these units of pavis at all. I'm also trying to break off some of his sergeants so they don't return. Problem is the crossbows are kiting my elite heavy infantry around the battlefield. I can't let him influence this cav fight too much, so I'm bringing over a couple of units of heavy infantry to try and deal with that. But the cav fight is kind of turning against me. Initially it looked like it was going to be a good engagement for me, but because this flank collapsed and I needed to send most of my reserve units over here to try and hold it, I have nothing to answer his spears, apart from very depleted units. And I am bringing over heavy swordsmen, but it might be a bit too late. These pavis have managed to stop my catapult, but at this point most of its ammunition was gone, so I wasn't too worried about this. So I'm firing in a bunch of heavy shot, but it's still very difficult to kill late period pavis spears. He has more late period units than I do, and he also has the numbers advantage, but I would say that where he had to compromise in his army was noticeable. That line of early period sergeants did virtually no damage to my heavy infantry. So now my heavy infantry is able to try and stem the bleeding, essentially. Got some reformed heavy sergeants, but they're wavering. The casualty sustained is probably going to send them routing. Some early period sergeants are coming back, but they're not going to get a lot done either because they are very, very depleted. One of my units of knights has now broken, and that's a real problem. It leaves my king horribly exposed. I do have some candlemen attacking the back of the pavis, but now it looks like my king is about to fall, and that would be a disaster. Having said that, it's also likely that his emperor will fall at around the same time, because these imperial knights are wavering, and they're about to break, and that will leave his emperor at the mercy of 2 units of knights and a unit of candlemen, which he really doesn't want. So it looks like both of our generals are actually going to die, which is interesting. I'm also going to send in 2 units of heavy infantry. It's a shame actually, because he was able to kite this heavy infantry to the point where it's now broken. Hopefully they will come back, but if they don't, then that's a bit of a problem for me. I'm sending in this heavy infantry to try and keep my general alive for as long as possible. I don't expect them to win this fight, but just keeping my general alive for a little longer may well bring the battle into my favour. If I can kill his general first, anything is possible. I'm starting to kill his Parvis thanks to sustained heavy fire from my archers, which have done a lot of work in this battle. I'm very impressed with the guests and the Orkney Islanders. Pretty damn good archer units. Not a lot of range compared to longbow units, but they have a lot of stopping power, as you can see, under heavy shot. And they're also good in melee, so when the Orkney Islanders were attacked by the late period units, they didn't fold instantly, which was very important because I need my archers. These Parvis, now this is an area where I need to kill these Parvis quickly. I need these 2 units of heavy infantry to be freed up and to get over here where the fight is really going in his favour. This part of the battle I am winning, and I will win. He's got some more units breaking here, but the question is, can I beat him quick enough to get over here and help influence this fight over here? And it's not looking like I'm going to be able to, because I need my archers to be firing over here, really. He just lost a unit of cavalry to breaking. And my general is breaking, which is very bad indeed. It means my army's morale is going to go through the floor. But his general is in a great deal of trouble as well. His unit is losing decisively. Where is the Emperor? You'd think he'd be easy to... There he is. I think he'd be easy to spot with his golden helm and red plume. But yeah, he's in a bit of a problem. And he's dead. So I have killed his general. He has broken mine. He's also likely to kill my general as he's routing, actually. So we are both in a bit of a sticky situation. We both need to reform. He's bringing his units over here to this part of the battle. I'm bringing mine over here. The biggest problem, though, is he has... Yeah, my general is now dead. The biggest problem that I can see here, though, is that he has a lot more ammo than I have. I have used the majority of my ammo already over here, trying to beat his flanking force, which they did, which is good, because I was really losing this part of the battle pretty hard early on, but now I've managed to sort of turn this part of the fight around and win it. But unfortunately, the all-important Cav battle has rather gone against me, and I'm having to sort of stop his skirmishes. I need to kill off as many of his skirmishes as possible, because I need to have the skirmish advantage if I don't have the Cav advantage. So I've charged into some of his crossbow sergeants. They're early, so they should break upon a shot cavalry's charge. He's got his Imperial Knights though, and I have managed to shatter some of his crossbows. But he has still got 2 units of Parvis, which is the real problem. Like, he holds the infantry advantage. I kind of hold the skirmisher advantage now, because I did manage to break a couple of his units. But he holds the Cav advantage. Maybe that charge was a bit of a mistake, but I'm having to move in, and still this unit of Parvis holds on. And that's the problem I had. If I had these 2 units of heavy infantry that I could commit over here now, I think I could win the fight. But unfortunately, this unit of Parvis, it's wavering, but it's held on for so long against my elite heavy infantry. And what I should have really done, and they have shattered, what I should have done is surrounded them. But you have to remember that this was a significantly larger force before, and I didn't really have time to micro them. And also these 2 units were sort of mixed in together, so it wasn't really practical once the fight was underway for me to actually try and get the surround off. That would have made them break sooner, and maybe it's something that I should have done, despite the fact I would have sustained losses. Some of my archers have run out of ammo, so I have committed them to melee. They're pretty good in melee, but against stuff like Parvis, late period Parvis, I don't think they'll get a huge amount done. I'm trying to kill off his crossbows. I'm sort of accepting the fact that I've lost the Cav fight, which, you know, in hindsight was probably a bad thing, because shot Cav is so important in Attila. But I needed to have the advantage somewhere, and I hoped that it would be in skirmishes. So I have managed to break 3 units of his crossbows, shattered them, but it has been at the expense of my 2 units of knights, which perhaps was not the wisest move. So I'm bringing over my elite heavy infantry, my Vapirna. I don't know, it's hard. Scandinavian is hard. I'm still using my archers, but some of them are wavering now. It's unfortunate, but it can't really be helped. I'm trying to surround these Parvis and break them quickly with a unit of the guests. A little bit better in melee than the Orkney Islanders, I think. But Parvis are just so difficult to kill. And this really has been my undoing throughout the battle, because now he still has some crossbows active, and he will have 2 units of the Imperial Knights ready. And more, while the balance of power is very even, I have the advantage in terms of numbers, but the quality of troops are something which he has in his favour, certainly. And he's able to kite my heavy infantry with his crossbow sergeants, which is a problem. And now I have no cavalry to answer his Imperial Knights, and he still has enough of them that this is going to be very painful for me. I still have some ammo with these Orkney Islanders, but not enough to influence the overall fight, I think. And it's these Imperial Knights which are going to be my undoing here. He's charged into this unit of the guests, which was almost completely healthy when they charged into them. And now they are breaking. 51. So the Imperial Knights, I am firing my arrows into them, trying to get... If I can break them with arrow fire, this fight is not over. In fact, I would say if I break them with arrow fire, I can probably win this. So it's whether or not I can fire enough arrows into these guys to make them break, because some of my units are breaking as we speak. Because my elite heavy infantry, I think, because the Pavis don't do a lot of damage, but then, you know, more and more of my units are shattering, so it's actually looking now like I'm not going to be able to do it. Which is sad. It's very sad indeed. And he's about to charge in, and that's it. They are broken. Only one unit of heavy infantry remains. And this is it. This is the end. They have shattered, and it was a valiant defeat. But that was the best, at least the closest game that I've played so far, because it could have gone either way. Right up to the end, if I had managed to break his cav with my archers, I could have won that pretty easily. But in the end, it was not to be. And here are the stats. Yet where I lost it were the spears. My spears really underperformed, and I think it was because I didn't have them in formation. But even so, like, that's a woeful showing by my spears, especially next to his, which did very, very well. I guess I just need to put them in formation. The tablemen were also outmatched, but then that was because they were overwhelmed, and I couldn't really support them in time, so they shattered early, and I kind of misused them. Where my army did very well, however, was the cav did pretty well indeed. I think both of our cav did kind of evenly, because both our generals died about the same time, and both our cav got kind of the same amount of kills across the board. His heavy sergeants did very well, but then that was against my underperforming candlemen. But really, my elite heavy infantry and my archers did very, very well. So what could I have done to win that? Well, it's hard to say because his Pavis held on for so long that I'm not sure what else I could have done. I could have handled the cav fight a little bit better, and I could have finished off that last unit of Pavis with my heavy infantry a little bit better. But in terms of my army pick as well, I think my army pick was good and it was solid, but I could have used my spears much better, and I could have used my tablemen better. Overall, what he could have done, I think he probably should have... I don't know, actually. I think he did everything he could have right. I think maybe he could have taken the cav fight earlier on a little bit better and saved his general, instead of sort of like putting his general in further behind the lines where he couldn't support them with crossbow fire. Was a bit of a mistake, but other than that, I think the Holy Roman Empire played this pretty well indeed. There were a few things that I could have done to try and win, but I think this was a well-fought battle by both sides. There wasn't much in it, and that's the key. So yeah, that was a good one. There is another good one as well that I played with this player, and I will be showing that relatively soon. I hope to see you then.